new 2022 BSA Gold Star really is defined by its single-cylinder engine. Now, the obvious competition for this bike, which costs between £6,500 and £7,000 depending which colour you buy, is Royal Enfield's £6,039 Interceptor 650. But that's a parallel twin, as are the others you might consider, like the Triumph T100 Bonneville or the Kawasaki W800. Now, I've ridden all of them, and you can check out those videos up here or at the end, but it's the new BSA Gold Star that we're looking at here. The launch was held at Millbrook Proving Ground. Now, in part, that was because the bikes were pre-production models, so apparently they're near as damn it the same. And there were loads of experienced journalists and influencers there. I'll say now that it's a great bike with plenty of character, but I've got some reservations about the suspension in particular. Anyway, let's start with some background, as rather than stand in front of the bike and do a piece to camera like everyone else, I grabbed Ashish Joshi, the director of BSA Motorcycles, to get some background on where this thing's designed and made first. Right, I'm here with Ashish Joshi. You're the CEO of Classic Legends and the director of the BSA company. I wanted to pick your brains a bit, please, if that's all right. We've had a good ride on the bike. Brilliant. Been really good actually having a chance to ride around Millbrook. I thought we'd only have a short run, but actually we've got plenty of miles here. It's been fantastic. The question I've got to ask, did you consider an air-cooled Gold Star?
Yes, I would say yes, we did. But the amount of power we wanted out of that engine and the emission standards that we wanted to meet, we very, very quickly ruled that out.
Yeah, I suppose it's a performance thing, isn't it?
Yes.
You're just not going to do that. And as you were designing this, as you went into motorcycles, what came first? The desire for Mahindra or the Mahindra Group to create a motorcycle, or the desire to own the BSA name?
No, so I think the way we set up Classic Legends as a company, and Classic Legends is the company which Mahindra bought into.
Yeah.
So Classic Legends was set up outside the group, and then Mahindra bought 60% equity, and we bought BSA company straight after. So it was more a synergy of 2 or 3 of our co-founders coming together and establishing the company. And I've been involved with the project ever since we first thought about it back in 2012, 13, I guess.
Wow, so it's been a long work in progress.
Yeah, it's been a 9-10 year journey.
And you did actually mention this earlier. The biggest market for the Gold Star, first off, is the UK. Is that right?
We would want that to be, and we bring it first to the UK, and then move on into Europe, and then into the US, Australia, New Zealand, and some parts of Asia as well, and South Africa, of course, as well. Yeah.
You've just signed with Lucas Distribution, haven't you, in the UK? What do you think by the end of this year, how many dealers are you hoping to have throughout the UK?
So Lucas Distribution have got about 5 already.
Yeah.
And I think towards the end of this current month, we should be at 10, and then sign up close to, I would say, between 30 and 40 dealerships towards the end of the year.
Brilliant. So it's going to be, good expanse right across. Now, there were originally plans to have this bike built in the UK. What happened, and what are your plans for the future?
Oh, lots has happened since then. Brexit first off, we couldn't get whether we're making them here or not. Brexit got cleared and we were almost ready to put in, and then came COVID. Yeah. So that's pushed our manufacturing plans in the UK back by I would say 2 to 3 years. Right. But we are very actively scouting for locations to put up that factory here in the UK. And what we did in the meanwhile was we'd already pre-ordered equipment, because equipment takes longer to arrive. Most of the lead times for say, for example, a Mazak machining center, the lead time is higher than what you would need for putting up a shed and then doing. So we had pre-ordered machinery. Yeah. Now what happened with that was machinery was arriving. Yeah. What do we do with it? So what we did was we installed the machinery, all of it, at our factory in India, established a new line for the BSA there. Yeah.
So it has its own unique production line.
Correct. Yeah. So that's and that line was envisaged to have been in the UK. Yeah. But for all the reasons that we spoke about, because we couldn't have it in the UK, we established all of that there. Yeah. Now, pulling that out from the Indian production center and bringing it here. We have to see how we proceed with that, because it's not easy to uproot machinery and a production line and then transport it over here.
Yeah, and obviously there's still a hope to potentially any bike from any manufacturer has a global supply chain, and there's parts coming from all around the world. But if the bike did become assembled or built in the UK, do you think prices would inevitably have to go up then?
I wouldn't think that.
No?
See, but we had always imagined that this machine will be produced in the UK, and we'd always had a supplier, eye on the supplier base in Europe at that point of time.
Yeah.
So look at the brakes, for example. They're from Brembo in Italy.
Yeah.
Now, these were always meant to come from Italy to the UK and get assembled.
Yeah.
Now, currently they're going in from Italy to India and then back in the form of a motorcycle.
Yeah.
That's not optimal.
Yeah.
So what will happen is, as we set up production base here, all the European supplies will come in here. So batteries, tires, braking systems, possibly other stuff which we finally ended up tooling up in India.
Yeah.
We can move that here. So production will have a meaningful say here.
And I understand that the bike has been designed and developed in the UK.
Yep.
Can you tell us just briefly about that? Where's that happening and who's doing it?
All right. So when we started off, we looked at who's doing the styling.
Yeah.
So the design of the motorcycle. We spoke to quite a few British design houses, and we cottoned on to Redline Studio in Leicester. Okay. So they're the guys who've done all the styling work on that. Also happy to note they're also our styling partners on the electric vehicle that we're doing.
Right.
So that relationship continues. I've personally known those people for about 15, 16 years now.
Right.
So that was on that front. The motorcycle engineering was all taken care of by Ricardo Vipro, which was Ricardo's motorcycle division. So they're the ones who've done the chassis, the suspension, the tuning, and all the chassis and swing arm optimizations. So British designed, British engineered. That's how it's meant to be, and that was all done out of their center in Colville.
Are there any plans you can share with us on any of the future models? I mean, I'd assume there's going to be smaller capacity, maybe for Mahindra's own markets, but are we going to see a Blue Star or a Bantam?
See, again, as I was saying earlier as well, we're going to take things as they go. This, to my mind, is not only one product. This is a platform. Yeah. There could be others built around that platform. Okay. Smaller bikes, I wouldn't want to talk about that just yet, because that's a different kettle of fish.
And you don't really see them as being big in the UK market either, I kind of
see. Personally speaking, I don't think the smaller motorcycles is the place for BSA right now. Okay. A Bantam at some point of time would make sense. Is that time now? I wouldn't say. But what is coming up for sure, and we're working on that, is an electric vehicle from our tech center in Coventry. So that is something that we would want to do as well. And
do you know how far off we are seeing something electric?
I would say a couple of years at least.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, but it's coming.
Yeah, it is. See, as with every other manufacturer, people are working on electric. Electric is a reality today.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for anybody to say that no, we are not working on electric, I'm not sure. Everybody is working on electric, but again, as petrol heads, we need to find our own space within that electric program as well.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. Thanks ever so much for your time.
Not at all. Pleasure.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you.
The new BSA Gold Star does deserve to be a success, and if you're in the market for something relatively affordable with this classic style, you should get a test ride. But this is what I think you should look for when you do. The engine. Right, well, it's a 650cc single and it's surprisingly smooth. It's got all the character you'd expect, but it's not horribly vibey. The fueling can feel quite snatchy at first, but that's the strong engine braking, and you do get used to it. Now, we rode the Gold Star several times on the city section at Millbrook, which is a lot of really tight turns and switchbacks, and it was brilliant in second gear, just pulling its way out of bends with very little need to feather the clutch or drag the back brake, so brilliant city bike. And the reason we don't have any footage of that is you can only film in very controlled locations at Millbrook because there are so many hypercars whizzing about that you mustn't see. Anyway, on more open roads, the BSA is fine. Look, it's no racer, obviously, but I got it up to about 95 mile an hour on the speed bowl, on the flat, of course, around it, not up on the side, before I had to back off as I was running out of road. And on my GPS app, that was an indicated 90.9 mile an hour. It had more to go too, so it's not slow so much as relaxed. The brakes are Brembo, and they've got braided lines too, but they're pretty soft. That's good for new and returning riders, I guess, but going down some of the steep hills at Millbrook, I did sometimes want a bit more bite. And the ABS also comes in quite early on the front. Again, good on wet sea roads, but worth knowing is it can extend the stopping distance a bit earlier than you might expect. Right, the suspension. While the BSA Gold Star isn't the cheapest mid-capacity classic bike, it's not far off, and that means something has to give. I think the shocks and forks, which are made by Gabriel, clearly feel the weakest part of this bike. The frame was developed by Ricardo Engineering, but it just feels to me like there's not enough control of the damping. In faster, bumpy corners, it can feel quite inaccurate, and if you do get things wrong, it just seems a little eager to start running wide. And that lack of damping can also mean that in some conditions it's possible to touch the base of the frame down. Now this scuff to the bolt happened when I went into a turn with a dip at the bottom of a hill. A bit more preload, which you can adjust, would probably have helped here. Look, it's not dangerous or anything like that. And to be fair, the suspension on the Interceptor 650 isn't its strong point, so it'll be worth at least considering some upgrades like a set of Hagon shocks, which aren't too expensive and certainly help the Royal Enfield. The exhaust sounds fine, and of course this is a Euro 5 bike. It doesn't sound like the original, which you'll hear at the end of this video, but it's not bad. Here it is. You might have noticed that baffle held in with rivets. While of course it's not designed to be removed, some owners might drill out those rivets and replace them with set screws and nuts. With the baffle out, it's not offensive, but it has got a deeper tone. The suspension is where I think the savings show up, and there are a lot of good quality parts on this bike, like the Brembo brakes and the XL rims. The halogen headlamp looks good too, with the idiot lights set into the top to reflect where the ammeter was on the original. There's a digital fuel gauge tucked at the top of the dial on the shocks. On the other side there's 2 trips and the Odo. I reckon BSA's done a good job here, though I'm not too sure about the charger sprouting off the bars. If you don't want this though, you could just remove it. The switchgear does look pretty cheap though, and I think this is a bit of a letdown, and there are some mould lines on some of the plastic parts. I also noticed the edges of the paint on the tank can chip a bit too easily, and there was some overlap on one of the coach eyes. To be fair though, the paint could likely be ironed out on the production models, and I was going down the whole row of bikes looking for things on them. The only other thing I noticed was that the filler cap has the logo etched into it, which looks really cool, but the engine has stickers that just look a bit cheap. Again, maybe these will be changed for the production too. There's a really in-depth review at bikesocial.co.uk, so I do urge you to check it out. If you're interested in this bike, I can give you a lot more in there than I can in this short video. The BSA Gold Star is a bike that's designed for pottering around on. It's for sunny days out into the country, which is where I really enjoyed the Interceptor 650 when I had that for a year or so. Which is best? Well, on paper the BSA has the edge in performance, but I don't know, I think the Royal Enfield just pulls ahead in some ways, and that includes a saving of 500 quid. But the BSA has that single-cylinder engine, which really does make it stand out from the competition. And it's great to finally see a real alternative in the more affordable price bracket. Honestly, I think the resurrection of the BSA name is going to be a real success.